Okay, how we doing? How we doing? How we doing? All right, I keep trying to get back to a law school in Mecca, and my work schedule is hectic. The projects I'm trying to do, the work I'm trying to complete, the work I need to do, survival work. So it's overwhelming me because of other things that have been taken care of very well. But now I'm trying to catch up. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Peace like visible. So bear with me as that, for those that have been contacting me to go back to a law school, um, I've been contacting you personally so that way we can build. Um, it could be, I guess, but I'm not worrying about COVID or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I really think that these variants and the massive people around the six are really most of them are they're breakthrough cases, now that a breakthrough case is acceptable, you know but vaccines are allowed not to work. um Now they say they work a little bit, so that's how they go now. So that's not why, just in case anybody's thinking of that. you know? um so far mandates are not stopping me from going to school. They just stop me from engaging in a lot of work I would have liked to. Right? There's a lot of other people. Right? Wise you, peace. Okay, for this session, I have some good questions again from uh, the God Self I Build, and uh, definitely a big thank you from the God Self I Build. He knows why. That was a really nice thing, but really, really nice. But he has some great questions. I'll get into them a little bit later. I want to let everybody get into the room so we can, engage it, as opposed to me just having people catch up. As a reminder, I have developed a course to introduce people into the martial arts, um, as a lifestyle, to introduce them to the lifestyle, if they chose me as their Sifu and the direct lineage I come from, or if they just wanted to learn some martial arts so that way they can choose a school that they would like to go to regularly on a bigger scale, whatever the desire, or just would like an introduction to it. I do have those rates. If you're in the New York City area, I train up in Staten Island, and it's worth the trek. Um, and if you start to train now, this is the real good warrior stuff, because I train people in the cold. Unless the conditions are icy where we train, uh, snow and ice, weather, precipitation, really, precipitation. You know what I'm saying? In the winter, I don't teach in the rain. Maybe in the summer, I pretty much train under all conditions. You know, unless it's icy. In the cold, I don't train in the rain. Um, it's just uncomfortable. And a lot of it is honestly because I don't want to keep clothes get disgusting and smelly and gross and all those things. So it's more of a thing. But we pretty much train all the time. So if anybody's interested in that, you can email me. Among the many things to email me for, Something. Ah, okay. Let me write this down. And for those that see it online, whether you see clips and things like that, the program, I call it concentrated supremacy. Of course, again, if anybody has any questions about anything, drop them in now. Drop them in now. Um, if you have any builds on the day's mathematics for those students I'm regularly building with, I haven't seen too many builds on the mathematics lately. And if you're on certain degrees, throw in the degrees. Let me see what you have because we're in a new year. Also, how are you doing with planning? This is important. Divine understanding. You're unfamiliar to me, so let me know what the science is. I guess before any questions, you know, I gotta speak to just so it's officially in a class setting and stuff like that here. I want to read two tweets I sent out that they're getting a lot of run. It's unfortunate if I tweet something negative, it gets a run. If I tweet the things I'm doing or sharing or the work, it doesn't get that run like that. But it is what it is. But I had tweeted these two tweets yesterday, and they're relevant. I had said the disrespect that Lord Jamal has shown the gods, particularly Minister Freedom, in these flat versus round earth debates on Killer Priest podcast is why I declined to debate him. Priest is enabling disappointingly, and Jamal is revealing he knows less and less daily. I also said Lord Jamal is not welcome in my classroom at a law school in Mecca either. I won't even entertain the possibility of violence he freely proposes when he's 100% wrong anyway. We debated. It will be at Mount Morris Park where I'll have enough space to receive his disrespect. Um, the level of disappointment is more at Killer Priest, but and that's only because I'm not surprised at what Lord Jamal is doing. I talked about in length, and one of the main concepts of the build is, do we really go through the knowledge degree? That's what you really do. We really do that? And I don't even mean in the 1 to 10. I mean in supreme math. Do we really do the knowledge? Do we really find out what knowledge is? Do we find out that what is presented to us is knowledge? Do we go out there and we accumulate knowledge so that we understand it and then we can embed it into our culture? Right? Isn't that today's math? So, the God asked me, I'm not going to say his name. He's real peace. And he asked if I wanted to debate him. And I wouldn't mind speaking to him, but I don't want to debate him. These debates have become more of a circus, a show, whether I did it there or I did it somewhere else. I don't bear witness to it. I think that, and I got emailed something also too from a brother, and he was being respectful, and he sent me a Dr. Phil Valentine clip of him explaining the concept of flat Earth, and it's almost like this infinite landscape. And again, I'm going to say the real problem with all this. This is a real problem that's not being looked at here. And the problem is that there are the proofs, and I keep saying this again and again, but maybe it needs to stick. Sometimes sharing in this teaching thing, we're sharing. That's all we're doing. And we're sharing repeatedly, and that's fine. So I'll share it again. The earth is round in nature. Okay. And when we say that it is, we're saying that because there are clear, basic experiments that can be done to prove that. There are coincidences that, not coincidence, I don't even want to use incorrect words here. There are realities like sunsets and things like that happen all over the world that show and prove that as well. But there's also mathematical formulas that have been derived. So you see certain things that are incorrect, like when we say gravity is a theory, it's not a theory. Gravity is not a theory. One of the reasons people think that gravity is a theory is because when they read science books since the 1970s, right? Or science that has been updated. And remember, we get slow updates, right? People don't even learn about quantum mechanics in school, like regular school. Um, we don't, we don't even get this concept of gravity since the 70s, right? Is something that has had difficulty not in its reality, but in the unified theory of everything. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means that it's 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 such a difficult force to reconcile in trying to find a theory of everything. Okay. And that's for research for every student here to do what that means. The theory of everything. Okay. That's the theory. It is not the whether the gravity exists or not. It is not whether countless mathematical formulas are derived, computed, and show and prove realities that are happening and about to happen using uh, using gravity. Right? I can't. I'm not going to dissect what I just saw from Phil Valentine just yet because I have to listen to it again. But it's really irrelevant to me in the immediate surface because logic and concepts of logic and taking things that you see and little bits that you've learned of space, of astrology, and things like that, and putting them together is not going to disprove it, because what's already proven is based on mathematical formulas. People keep telling me the earth is round, but before GPS, people were using round, they were using formulas based on the round earth to navigate themselves around the entire globe. Not GPS, not anything else. Okay? And not waiting for nightfall to look at stars either, but the cartography that they knew. And I'm just giving examples. For something like the earth to say the earth is flat, and for someone to come with a concept like that, especially saying that they're the true and living God, means this, means that they have to do their research and prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt before they come into the cipher. Before they even go into a commercial cipher to speak this, which would be those debates in the Killer Priest show, they've already had these sophisticated debates with guys like Minister Freedom and others in private time. No cameras, no YouTube, nothing like that, right? Because it's not proven. Because to show and prove it, you have to go against ideas that have mathematical proofs. And the mathematical proofs are used daily. They're used daily. To go and say, we don't use GPS. GPS is a fraud. It's not real and stuff like that. Well, what about the other navigation tools that are just pencils and compasses and all that? Where would you be if you decided to use the flat Earth concept? See, there's a problem. There's a problem. It's very backwards, this concept. If you want to disagree with something, you have to first see what are the proofs that have led and what are the usage. This concept of the earth being round isn't something that, just happens to be. Like, people just say it and then it has no consequence. It has massive consequence in daily life, beyond GPS, beyond the ease of GPS. It already had its consequence. So it's already been used. You see? And people keep using systems of very lazy logic. I don't, and what they really show is that I don't really understand this concept. So this concept, insert concept here, is not true. It's what the white man says. That's the white man concept. And what I'm hearing is that they don't understand the concept. See? Peace, Divine, and say I appreciate the add-on. Divine Truth, 793rd, as always. God see, peace. So I neglected to debate the God. And this is before that recent Killer Priest debate where he disrespected Minister Freedom magnificently. And I said it would get like that. I know he doesn't know me, and I have a I don't put myself in a position to be disrespected. And I certainly won't be put in a position like that inside the school. Absolutely not. So that's why I said that. You know, I also said in a tweet that, having a truth and sharing a truth that we see doesn't make one a family. The 5% is not automatically family, but its roots are. You know, the roots of the 5% are family. The firstborn was family with Allah. They say he was sons of Allah. They were his sons. He treated them like a father. You know, and so that's very important. So that means that as we build and as we learn about each other, as we realize that we are the few that really know this, and you know, I find it funny, right? One of the things I'm going to relate this to other thing that happened with all these tweets was I got trolls on troll, the regular troll. It's got to be the same guy, or this is a legion of people that say the same thing. But I always get called some Hispanic Arab that isn't original. Like I'm some Berber or something. You know, um, there's some bullshit like that. VC round, peace. Um, so anyway, I get called that kind of stuff, and it's always in the guise of, well, the 5% fell off because they're not tough, like they used to be, and things like that. And here's the thing, right? What do people know about that? What do people get? And this is why the 85 is the 85. Is like, who the hell are you to tell us what was tough if we don't appear as militantly, racist as you think? And I say racist because we do have power. You know, not every black man that says some foul shit has power. But to me, on many levels, though, like we got to get off that thing where, like, Khalid Muhammad had the bill and said we can't be racist because it takes prejudice plus power, right? And that was a true statement in the context of what he was saying. That's where that comes from. But it's not a true statement all around. When somebody says, and somebody goes, someone is darker and goes to someone like myself or something that's original, who is clearly original, I can prove that beyond a shadow of doubt. I spent years easily doing it. That's my life. And countless of the greatest notice it. I don't have to prove it. But here's the thing, right? When you go around in this fashion, right? When people go around in this fashion and they say that, oh, we weren't as tough or not, we have to understand that there are a lot of incorrect perceptions of what the 5% is. And this concept of being racist, that we can't be racist as original people, is a falsity. Because it also implies, it's the same reason why white supremacy is a word that people don't like to use, because it implies the supremacy of whites, even though it doesn't. White supremacy is the ideology, okay? It's the ideology that they are presenting. You know what I mean? That racist whites are presenting. So it's not an incorrect word. But to say that we can't be racist automatically is almost saying like we don't have power in our ignorance. We don't have power in the words of our ignorance. And no, we don't have that institutional power, but we got power. We got power. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you. A lot of people wonder, why there aren't, more different original people. And I always say that the different kinds of original people, and that's what leads to the assumption that it's only dark skinned or African American. Right? I'm not even going to go about the quality of the teaching, and I don't mean teachings, but the quality of the teaching that people have gone out there to do. Right? And I say one of the reasons people don't get knowledge is because of the framework of oppression. A lot of original people you're not going to see because they're not drawn by the negativity. In other words, they're not noticing that there are devils out there, that there is real devilishment out there. Instead, they see devilishment as a condition of the realities of power. What they don't understand is that power is not something that exists. You know what I'm saying? The power of governments and institutions, they don't exist just because societies build up. They exist because people amass them. Okay? So devilishment resides in the individual, not in the institution. And that's why I don't care for too much in the exclusionary or the dismissive statement of saying power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. These statements are not incorrect, but they dismiss things. They dismiss that power is something that is accumulated. And when that devil had zero power, his intentions every single moment was to accumulate that power. See? And then all of a sudden, when that power exists and they do devilish shit, we say, well, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. But that power didn't exist until he accumulated it in that fashion. See? Because societies can be built up, right? They can be built up where they are consistently kept local, where people are the decision makers. You see? Yet the degrees keep telling us about the predetermined idea, the determined idea, the determined idea. And then we keep saying power corrupts absolutely, as if it's some gift that you get all of a sudden, and now you must be evil because it's too overwhelming to deal with. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. And that means that any of our people, when the Father stressed, we are neither pro-black nor anti-white. When the Father stressed that, it was because everything, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, power, equality, God, build, born. All of these are real things. Knowledge is a real thing. The culture we live is a real thing, right? But they also exist already as realities that are known. And so each degree is attained with a determined idea. Knowledge is a real thing, but you attain it with a determined idea, the will. Wisdom is a real thing. You attain it with the use of that knowledge. Understanding is that revelation of purpose that is revealed because you have been what? Using that knowledge. And you born that understanding. And you intend to share it. And so you have a determined idea to share that understanding as part of your life. And so it becomes a culture. And so you are determining with all you can know the power of that reality. And that power is determined. So when people make statements, it doesn't mean that they just have prejudice, but they don't have power, so it's not racist. What power do you think it doesn't have is what I'm saying. We teach the babies one at a time, people one at a time, one individual at a time. And I'm just talking to brothers that aren't assumed to be original. The people that have knowledge and have love for me and that know the diaspora, not just the 5%, the gods and the earths, but people that know the diaspora will be like, peace, black man, to me. But what about all of those other people that look like me or that are lighter and they are original, but they don't know? And someone says, well, you're this and you're that and you ain't this. They strip them of the identity that has an entire history behind them. And then you're going to tell me that we can't be racist when all it takes is one statement said with as much power of hatred as possible to destroy the reality of that individual's psyche, that young person's psyche. The truth is that the 5% don't have the power that people think they have because many of the people that became 5% were for the power of other things. You see? And I won't go with this other thing either. You know what I mean? You know, people that know could always say people like Lord Jamal, they were never one of us. Because they could look at things and they could see that he never really was about it and things like that. But in the reality that he lived, he was sharing this. He was sharing this. So in reality, he was doing things that a 5%er would do. Right? There are massive holes. Right? The 5% album is a booklet of lots of misinformation. Right? Or half the story, or written by really a straight devil, Michael Muhammad Knight. That was who got to write that booklet. Everything is marketing. Everything is marketing. Yeah, I got bots now too, right? Visa Realm, yeah, I got everything. Moving on up. And I could trash the the Lord Jamal's 5% album, right? But what was the song that really resonated with people? Was the song about Allah the Father. The album doesn't really have much understanding. It has that soulful song, but doesn't really have much understanding. There isn't much of in depth here. It's a very basic album, very very basic. You know what I mean? And I mean that I'm talking about his rhymes, very basic, nothing mind blowing, right? But the truth is that he was doing things as a 5%er. To say that he to say that he never was is to say that you're judging the validity of things, and now people have to do extraordinary things. That's not always the case. People's heart could be in there. They could just do it wrong, or they could just do it weakly. Not every 5%er is a great teacher, even though a 5%er is a poor righteous teacher. You know what I mean? So these are always quandaries. The truth is, right, is that a lot of people get this knowledge and their intention is to draw up the power. They do see that the original man is God, but it was all from an egotistical point of view, that it's really about me, and that everything rotates around me. Everything is about me. You see? I mean, to truly believe things like the sun is 30 miles away, it's just such a great metaphor. It's such a great metaphor for how you think you're bigger than everything else. And I didn't start that. I in all my years teaching, I never invited anyone to go to fight. I certainly never invited anybody to Frank stands. You know, never done that. If people were disrespectful to me, I invited them outside to finish it a different way. I've done that many times. I've even showed up to the school to finish it that way. I'm not the one to tell you that universal beatdowns I'm not ready for. I'm telling you that inside that classroom, when respect is given, inside that cipher, when respect is given in massive disagreement, you give it back. You know what I mean? You don't have to like everybody. That doesn't mean that they're not doing their job. You don't have to like the way people build. That doesn't mean that they're not doing their duty. You could say, I don't like the way he moves. I'm not moving with him. He could do his own thing. There's a lot of places for us to teach, though. You could teach on that block. I'll be on this block, right? But it's embarrassing because even if someone really believed that this earth was flat, they have so many mathematical proofs that they would have to engage in to disprove it. It cannot be, you cannot prove it and say, well, these people thought it was like this back in the day. Ancient history means nothing when it comes to this because we have mathematical proofs. We are already in the scientific, we're in a scientific reality where mathematical formulas can prove things that we cannot see. And for that, you got to be very discerning. Some people think that the third eye just means find out where Whitey is doing something dirty to us and figure it out. third eye, the third eye. See the white man coming. Da da da. But you know, it sounds stupid. And it's funny though, right? Lambasted Minister Freedom for his intelligence, for his articulation, because he wasn't coming at street, he wasn't cursing, he wasn't delivering it grimy. You know what I mean? Grimy, like he wasn't like, yo, the fucking earth got formula, son. You know what I mean? He didn't deliver it enough. He didn't do it Raekwani enough. You know what I mean? You know, he didn't ghost Dini it enough. You know what I mean? He said, yo, he didn't give the proof, and one of the gods out there didn't put the robe on him after he gave the proof. You know what I'm saying? So he's a smart, dumb motherfucker, right? Don't invite people to Frank stands. You know what I'm saying? Because we get his hands and feet. It's not a good look. What's the look, though, of us fighting each other? What would that look like? You know what I'm saying? That would look disgusting. That would look disgusting. BC Realm, he said, we all believe the lessons and we all take him on face value. It's what he said. Like he said, the sun was 30 miles an hour when they got him on it only being 30 miles away. Then he said, when questioned, well, it should take an hour to get there. He said, nah, it's going to move by the time you reach it because it's 24 hours a day, so it's too fast. Oh, goodness. It's just a giant bulb. It's a moving bulb. Yeah, you switch his story because you know why? Because he's just doing logic. It's just logic. He's manipulating logic. And logic is what a scientist use to calculate things, but you have to respect the formulas. You know? It's crazy. Peace, Rome. My take on China making an artificial sun. I didn't read too much about it. You know what I mean? But so I can't really speak too much on that. But I wouldn't be surprised as people with technology try to make ways of generating artificial energy or in these fashions. You know, I don't think that time on the clock, along with the calendar, is a form of mental slavery. You know, because the clock existed. It's really the structure of work, of the way that people are supposed to get their money in the capitalist society. That's the slavery. You know, I don't think it's the clock. You know what I'm saying? If there was no clocks and all we had was sundown, sunrise to sundown, we'd still would make certain markers and say, well, I want to do these things today. I want to do those things today. There were still things that we would want to do. There were still things we would want to share and things that we would want to commune with, that we would want to exchange to live a fruitful life. I will make this, you will make that. And when we all come together, we can eat because you did that. We be protected because I did that. We will learn because I read this and shared this. So there's always gonna there's always a necessity for time. You know what I mean? It exists once we move, once we build. You know what I'm saying? The reality of what is finite is real, and the mastery of what is finite, right, in this finite body with this infinite mind is the reality of the realms of Allah. All the realms, including the finite, including what we find so constricting the clock. But we're not constricted by the clock. We're constricted by the society's use of the clock upon us. You know, so it's almost like saying, "Are you against, weapons?" It has nothing to do with the weapon. You know, nothing to do with it. Making no sense with that VC realm. Yeah, unbelievable. He, with that whole sundial stuff, it's like he just says the opposite. You know, he says the opposite, and there's no mathematical formula to show that. You can't just reverse it. So you say her horizon does no, that's trickery, that's eye trickery. But the sun is clearly closer because it looks closer. It's just really embarrassing. And people go through it, and there's not one measure of proof. There's just a lot of it's got to be. This doesn't make sense. Here's what I propose, and people just make a great, great story, but they don't take any mathematical calculations. But I wanted to explain that because I didn't want people to feel like most people would feel that I'm exiling people because I don't want to build with them and stuff. And that's honestly that's preposterous. That's ridiculous. You know? And it's funny because I don't spend my time thinking about why the earth is round. You know what I mean? 793. You said contrarianism has been on the rise with these cats selling narratives over the interwebs while in their houses without the proper application of knowledge and wisdom. Absolutely none. 793. I mean, what books on gravity have they read? What have they read about earth science and how it's computed? The weight of our planet Earth, how is that computed? You know what I mean? These are real calculations. You know what I mean? The study of light and how it defines the time, the distance of stars. You know what I mean? Light and its massive, crucial role in quantum theory. These are the things that we're supposed to be studying. These are the things that make Earth being round just a basic concept. But I'm speaking more today on this disrespect. You know what I'm saying? On this disrespect. And I think that people don't really understand that they have less of an understanding of racism than than ever before. You know what I mean? When you have power to do something, please don't deny the power that you have. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Absolutely don't deny the power that you have. Peace, Quartis. You said being intentful, one, about uncovering, interesting, three, the way to live. Okay. Testing out the methods and routines that promote the quality of life one can build on. The proof of how to live is based on utilized ideas. Constant application or the constant effort of finding out is a great foundation to one's culture. The intent of that idea, when it's finally uncovered, it can be shared as a way of life. You see it? But then these other thoughts are different, testing out the methods and routines that promote the quality of life one can build on. You said the proof of how to live is based on utilized ideas. You see, that's the whole thing, right? What's being disrespected is that the earth is round is not just hasn't been decided by scientists or NASA as a good logic, for the reality that they are proposing. It's something that has many things have created based on that base. Many distances have been traveled based on that. Even if you want to not agree that GPS is a fraud, we have to find a way to do the knowledge better. There are some people that they'll go the whole COVID is caused by 5G and stuff like that, right? This is what I mean about it's a sloppy knowledge. It's sloppy knowledge. 5G, 4G, 3G, 2G, they're all harmful though. They are it's electric pulses. It causes things. But those causes are not going to be something totally respiratory illness. They're not going to give you a virus. It's gonna cause things down the line. They are not healthy, right? And people keep putting things together by mere logic. This is bad and it happened here, and so this is bad. That has to be connected to this. It's almost like we write the stories for them. And do you realize how magnificent our oppressor has to be to have had a whole society base its entire life, like actually cartography, the science of travel, everything based on around Earth? Do you realize how immense? Because there's massive amounts of technology today. And don't think people think it's just like it also assumes that every single technological thing that is created is only made by people in secret. So it's pretty much everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty much everybody. And that's why the further corporatization of everything around us only it amplifies it. It amplifies, but it amplifies the conspiratorialization, but it's not refining it into a real useful idea. You know, it's not refining it. People hate the corporatization of things, but they believe big pharma with this particular vaccine. You know, they've seen countless people die from every drug again and again, right? But they believe this. So there's so much inconsistency because what? People are not doing the knowledge. They literally do bad research. They do bad work. They find people that they can believe in and then go from there. Or they spend most of their time in a consistent disbelief. Instead of researching, because they don't want to believe things, they find themselves believing in disbelief. That's the birth of the negative concept of conspiratorializing. 793rd, you said they act like they don't want nor feel the need to study nor even take time with people who use those calculations daily. Also, I've taken your point of prejudice and ignorance in an impactful way, um, can be seen as racism, so to speak. I think one of the most ugliest parts is the way that we say we respect knowledge, but that was demeaning. You know, he was demeaning the guy because he sounded smart. And the truth was that he was the only one that had intelligence there, that was showing it. Quatis, you said sounds like some are not doing as to what they're being told or hearing from certain places. Yeah, absolutely. Quatis, you said, do you think people just want to believe or find it easier, or some just too lazy to put in the time to research a particular area of interest so that they can speak on it with some level of clarity? I don't get what makes a person want to speak on something and deep down they know they've done no research. Because even in a debate, you would want to be so prepared that you can knock out why another person's thing is wrong, and you would have researched the details, the math. You would have seen the formulas based on it. You know, and because you find that you haven't, and you just want to use your star power, that's what happens. But again, I made those tweets because I wanted to make it known that I'm not going to allow that. You know what I mean? So I'm not a young boy in this nation anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a young man anymore. I got this knowledge as a man, and now I'm an older man. And I'm telling people that's not the way. That's not what we teach. That's not what we're doing. The truth is that something so wrong like that isn't even to be built on outside. It's to be proposed to people that really know this, to test it. And we clearly would tell them, like, yo, you know how many books you've missed out on, how much research, how much math is based on this all. Peace, Mikhail. Mikhail Allah. Peace. Um, yeah, so let me see some more builds. If you did see it, if you have any questions about anything, you know what I'm saying? Let me know. Let me know. I just wanted to at least start before we get like questions and things like that to clear up, those tweets that I had. right, give me a break. Let me take a break here. All right. Wise you said today's math is knowledge, understanding, all being born, a culture of freedom, to respect one, all things, and C, understanding the best way to righteously teach those blind deaf. It's very interesting the way you put teach as the culture. That's a powerful statement. You know, that's a powerful statement. Drinking a peppermint tea now. Got into it. Give me a moment here. My little one is calling me. That's peace, wise you. Yeah, definitely, definitely. all type of teas I be using. I love to drink guayusa tea and yerba mate during the day when I need energy and focus. But experiment with a lot of other teas, jasmine teas, the jasmine green teas, all of these things. You know, you know, when you study Buddhism, the major aspect of their reality wasn't who we are, but how we are stopped from being who we are. You know, and people focus on the concept of illusion and suffering and stuff. But a major aspect of their idea was realizing illusion and what causes illusion. You know, and this is something that I think that is very important in the quest for knowledge. You know, and what is real. You know, what they called Maya. You know, I don't think I've had a burdock and soursop tea. Never had that. Sounds good. Quatis, you said, would consciousness be represented by awareness and intelligence by the ability to categorize and give meaning to those things one is aware of, and that meaning being a representation of culture? I think that not everything, well, categorization is often associated with the European westernized world. Categorize it, define it, so we can use it and we can take hold of it, take it for ourselves, conquer it. Um, However, it makes us counter react by thinking that categorization is wrong. I think categorization is important, um, because there is a defining of all things. You know what I mean? I would say this. I think consciousness is awareness and intelligence. It is an awareness to be able to discern what is true, what is not, how long to hold it. You know what I mean? When to seek, when something isn't proven enough is really the key here to consciousness, because that difference between understanding and culture it's really back to the understanding. When does something become understanding? And that's the key. Have I explained it enough where I just get it? I get it for myself. You can explain anything. That's why I said logic is a very difficult mathematical tool. It's a foundation. It is. It is the foundation of supreme mathematics, logic. And yet it's the most abusive. And it is the primary tool used by the scientists to develop the question. And so logic has to be mastered. The ability to form things logically and the ability not to trust one's logic only. You see? Because even when you construct a question, which means you're making a question of what you don't know, your question could be wrong, meaning that it doesn't lead to a pursuit to a real answer, right? So that means that all of these things, are measured on the quality of one's ability to use logic. We would think when we see things like Lord Jamal, I mean, we see, we still see some stumbles. We see basic stumbles, you know, right? Certainly, it is the motivation behind learning, you know. And see, I'm gonna tell you something. What I see out of people that make art, I have seen young people think that they know everything there is to know, all the while that their art is rhyming about things that we've been known. But they feel so egotistical that they were able to make a song that might sound good and express these very basic insights. And all of a sudden, they feel they're profound. You see? And sometimes, if you were able to explain things as your own, sometimes it doesn't even have to be true. You might have the ability to explain it. And I think that this is one of the pitfalls of performed art, especially in hip hop, because there's a lot of it's an art where you pack in a lot of information. It's designed for it. It wasn't intentioned that way in the beginning, but it was designed for it. It was designed to say what we felt like saying, but then you realize you can say anything you want. And so its songwriting structure can hold lots of things, you know? Right? I'm not really an MC. I don't straight rhyme everything. But even when I've done songs with people, I've had more. They're over 300 words. Over 300 words. One of the songs I did, and that was one verse. You know, so there's a power that comes with being able to communicate what you see as a truth in detail to other people, and I think that it's possible that somewhere, even while he was recording, that Lord Jamal really thought that if he's able to express it, it'll all have the power of being insightful automatically because he said it, and he said it artistically, as opposed to the framework. Let's say, and I say as me as whenever I write, whenever I share it, whether it's verbally, mainly written, I'm not thinking that way. I'm thinking, is this truly useful, and assuring whether it is actually true. You know what I mean? But it doesn't always work that way. You know, understanding comes by developing to basically use knowledge, right? Or to get to the point of uncovering knowledge. A lot of times is based on the questions that you have. But when you start to formulate it and see whether it is true or not, it'll be based on the questions of logic that test it. And I think this is where people fall. You know, people fall here. You know, a lot of understanding. I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of understanding comes from developing the questions of a said thing. You know, things you learn from other teachers or things you may not have prepped that question. So it's not always the truth. But in the things you study, this is very much the case. You know, very much the case. You know, right? Okay. Peace, unique Allah. Any questions that anybody has? Any builds? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Also, all right. Let me know. I am going to fish out those questions by self-I build. Um, he had some questions about the justice curriculum. I didn't make a separate video for justice curriculum. I taught it in one of the sessions. The justice curriculum is a plus lesson that basically says for us to really develop a well-rounded consciousness, intelligence, it's important to be well-rounded in lots of areas. Though obviously we could possibly avoid the pitfalls of of flat earthing and things like that, and things like that. And it basically had disciplines to begin to study specifically, outright, overtly. The list was 10 of them. Obviously, there's more, right? It was hygiene, music, and not in this order, of course. News, science, health, training, identity, pedagogy, the science of teaching, talent, meaning your own talents. What are they? Always exploring your talents, right? And love, right? That concept, that idea, the reality, right? And so Self-I Build had some questions about that. So I'm going to spend some time to answer those questions. I haven't read through all of them yet. Um, all right, let me see. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if they all stem from this, but he was reviewing it and he quotes the first one. The seventh one was identity. And he said, he quoted what I had said: we must work on noticing belief and letting it go with truth and become aware of the cliches we have labeled ourselves with and let them go. What are some of those cliches that we have labeled ourselves with? What are the most destructive ones that we should work on letting go first? Um, boy, there's so many errors in what Lord Jamal did that he's prime tool for this. So I'm going to continue to use him as a tool. Um, it's the way that he insulted Minister Freedom. The cliche that if someone has articulate responses that are mathematical, we say that we're about the math, but when you get responded to mathematically, um, with a cogent statement, with science and math and the concept of the scientific method meant to explore things and question them, not just meant to justify things, right? And then it gets dismissed, you know. Smart dumb nigga, smart dumb motherfucker, and it's almost like, um I think these are the cliches that could be most damaging. Like, we grow up thinking who we are, and all of the Eastern science, Eastern spiritualities, yogis, Buddha, all of them stress this concept. All of them stress this concept of letting go of the ego, and you'll find God. And the God wasn't the mystery; it was the ego was the veil. So the most mysterious thing that we're talking about was the veil of the mystery. Right? Who you think you are is not truly who you are. Right? We could say that this holds true. Right? It certainly holds true. Right? So these cliches are things that you think you are. Like when you make decisions and say, "Well, I'm the kind of person that responds this way," and it's like it's always, this might be true, but you always have to take those moments to say, "Is that really how I ought to respond? Is that how I should respond? Is that the way that'll always be?" Right? So These are the cliches I'm talking about. You know, do they set your course of action before you've even decided? You know, because I have to be this type of person. You know, and that's important. You know what I mean? That's really important. So that's what I mean by cliches. You know, I think I think any cliche is destructive because it's not true. Those are the most destructive cliches, and they're most identifiable because they limit the way that you react to things. You know, I'm the type of nigga that's off jump, you know. And then what happens? Well, you got to continue to be that person because that's a person of value, of integrity now, to uphold the image you have of yourself, and that image really is a cliche. It's not based on truth, you know, and it could be very destructive, you know. Good question here. What are some of the concrete things that a person could do to develop themselves into being worthy of love? You know, when I use that phrase "worthy of love," um, I didn't mean that people have to do things to be loved. You know, if they just have their own integrity and their own righteousness and they're good, someone should love you. You shouldn't have to make yourself earn it every 2 seconds. You should just be. And that what I mean by worthy of love is that you would be doing things that you would be honored. You're honoring yourself, and everybody else that you would have around that said that they wanted to love you would be honoring those too. You know what I mean? That's really what I mean by that. You know what I mean? I think it could also be dangerous that we try to always make ourselves worthy of love. You know what I mean? Right? That we might be always thinking of that, and then it gets cliche again when people go, "Oh, you know," especially women on Instagram, is that, "Yeah, I'm self loving, I'm nurturing myself, this and that." It sounds corny as hell, but what it means is that you have to love yourself first, and if you don't love things about yourself, these are the things that are not worthy of love. You can't If you don't love them in yourself, then they can't be destined to be that way. You know, you have to say, is it possible to build myself up? Is this the way it has to be? You know what I mean? You'd be surprised that nearly anything could be added on to, right? And that's what I mean by you know, to develop yourself as one worthy of love is worthy of your own love first. And so you have to, you know, you have to constantly keeping your word is one of the best ways. Is your word a righteous word? Is it a righteous thing to do? It is the right thing to do. And then are you able to keep your word with yourself? You know, I think people in relationships, they often become attacked because the person isn't even supposed to prioritize the word that the word is bond that they have with themselves. That literally has nothing to do with anybody else. And what's interesting is that if left to keep their own personal word, it does make them better. It does make them worthy for everyone else. Sometimes people in relationships don't see that. Right? And he asks them, what should one do if they apply these concrete things and still are not deemed worthy of love by others? That's just the way the way it goes, right? um, I don't know, because is it possible to go a whole lifetime knowing this knowledge and not teach anyone because they just weren't ready? That is possible. Is it possible to truly do things as righteously as possible and love yourself, and no one truly wanted to love you in the ways that you defined it, however you defined it? This is possible too. You know, so anything is possible because it's not 100%. It's not completely based. It's not completely based on what you do only. You know what I mean? So that's a possibility, and I truly think that the possibility is lowered the more that you love yourself by doing righteous things. You have a true understanding of yourself, and you love yourself, and you do things that are right and exact that build you up, and that leads to living a life that helps other people and adds on. I don't see why someone, would be um, not loved by others. But this world is cruel too. You know what I mean? And it's filled with 85. You know, filled with 5%, that become 85. So who knows, right? Love is a battlefield, right? Isn't that what Pat Benatar said? Right? Rome, you said you can't buy love. No, you can't. Sometimes you can't even build it up. Sometimes. And you said love yourself and love will find you. Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. And I would say to keep a measure of idealism. A lot of the reality that we know as 5% is that because this is true, we know that it'll be of value to people. That's not necessarily true either. Proven. We cannot prove that. But that's where our idealism comes in. And when it comes to love, sometimes you have to be idealistic, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of idealism that comes into play with creating new great things. Don't lose your idealism, right? The concept that like I could make this. It doesn't exist, right? Isn't that what Yakub did, right? Salute that man, Yakub, right? Showing the whole idea of it. You know what I mean? How to build something. Right? He gives an example here. Isn't true as you develop yourself into a person worthy of love, you also receive hate from others intensely. Sure. He said, for example, the biblical Christ was hated as he continued to develop himself and was crucified. Similarly, many within this nation face homelessness, rejection, even killed as they chose to develop themselves into being more worthy of love via knowledge of self. Then by whom should we look to receive this love as we develop? Is it the 85 who mostly are blind, deaf, and dumb to the love they should foremost have for themselves? Or is it 10% who intentionally try to keep the masses away from loving self? Or is it the 5% who, in my opinion, should already understand the necessity of loving self and kind? Right? What is the line that differentiates being worthy of love versus seeking validation and approval? That line is always fudged. You know what I mean? It is always fudged. I think that love is two-way, because when people seek to love you, they're also sharing what they have too. You know what I'm saying? In whatever relationships you encounter. So you're learning things too. You know what I mean? And so there are all types of relationships. You know what I'm saying? Right. But again, this is why I speak about writing about it, because it's very much in flux. Is it the 85? Is it the 10? Is it the 5? Well, it's got to be people that have an overbearing abundance of carefulness towards you, that they want to deal with you, and they have a lot of care for you. This is the beginnings. You know what I mean? They have a carefulness in how they approach, care about how you are. They care for you. These are the type of people you deal with. And obviously, many of those people will be masked as 10 percenters, and they're not the ones. You know, a lot of relationships, whether long or short, can be like that. Right? The truth is that the 85 have that capacity. That's why we teach them. That's why we love the 85. They're our people. We only have a contempt for the 10% because they're willingly doing this. Okay? One could argue, and I would argue, that they don't have the capacity for love and show it evidently. Right? But they also mask themselves, so you don't know. Right? And in all things, because we're human, the again, as I said, the lines blur in being worthy of love or just seeking validation and approval. You know, that is very that line blurs, tremendously. He continued, he said, "We know there is only a small portion of people that will understand the necessity of spreading love and the great significance it holds. How then do we properly distinguish the real love versus the fake love, aka plastic smile?" By the work that comes with that, you know, when I said that they would show a carefulness towards you, right? That's how people reach your good graces. Are they careful? Do they care for you? Are they full of care for you? Right? Not careful to not offend, not careful to get your good graces. I mean, careful. They're filled with care for you. I'm using the word a little bit different. And of course, though, we need to develop the ideas of distinguishing between real and fake love, but that's hard. It's hard, and it's more not like a science mastered and then dealt used. It is more like bathing yourself of belief. It is because that's where a lot of belief is being tossed out, and that's where you have to constantly bathe yourself of what you think is going on, what you think you see, what is real versus what you just feel. You know. He also added on, or you doing for them and them deeming you worthy of love. I think this too. I think that the way that we deal with things, we might work extensively. I think this is a problem that I have. I everything that I love what I do, and everything that I've done has extreme work to receive its benefits. Whether it's martial arts, whether it's reading, whether it's writing, I have to do a lot of work to receive its benefits. And sometimes we go into relationships in that mentality that it's my work that's going to give the benefit. And in a lot of ways, that love is not supposed to be worked directly for. It's supposed to be indirectly seen by the works of you, the workings of you, right? Like, kind of rephrasing the makings of you by Curtis Mayfield. But like the workings of you are what people love. You see? And it shouldn't just be based on the work that you constantly do that then becomes directly done for them. You know, it's a combination of things. You know what I mean? It's a combination. You know, right? Was that Teddy P song, right? No 60-40 love, right? Right. Teddy P was talking about a 50-50 love, right? When somebody loves you back. I love that song. Right? Teddy P. Teddy P be educated. That's why Ghost Dini was taking Bronson to school with one of Teddy P songs. One of the great ballad men, one of the great balladeers, right? Lord Jamal. I mean, not One of the great balladeers, Teddy Pendergrass. You know, some good stuff. It's classics. Let me see. I think I answered all the questions. Um, I also think too that because they fluctuate so much, and if you treat it like bathing of belief, love is something to also write about. You know, it's something to write about. You know, I think in your journal, it's something to spend many pages on. You know, what it means. You know what I mean? Okay. Because we learn love at such an early age with our children, I would
Papi, I wanted to
I would
tell
think
you
that I would think that that as we learn it as a young age, we can learn it with our children as well. You know, and relearn it. You know, as we give them love. You know, but it's it's not an answerable subject. It's a subject that you constantly learn with and learn from. You know, because it's a concept. It doesn't mean that it's a belief or that it's not real, but it's an abstract concept. You know. All right, so we have some time here. Let me know if there's any questions or anything like that. Um, Rome, you said love is from within. You can't go to school nor teach anybody how to love. I don't know. I don't know about that, Rome. I think anything could be taught. You know what I'm saying? I what I do say, Rome, is I think that it not everybody can do it, but it can be shown, and because it can be shown, it can be taught. See, taught doesn't mean that the person can just do it, but it can be shown where people will know of it. So, for example, not everyone can learn how to play basketball great, but it can be shown. You know what I mean? Not everybody um, can learn to be great at martial arts, but it can be shown, and some levels even be used. So I see love as the same way. It's certainly absolutely, and in this case, unlike the other examples I gave, it has to be shown. You see, and I think that as a poor righteous teacher, I think in every step that we take as a teacher, everything that we do, love has to be shown. It has to be evident in the things that you do, right? Andre Coleman, peace. You said, how do you see people love differently? Expound on that. I'm not really sure what you mean um, when you say that. I'm not sure about what you mean by that. Okay, Rome, you said evil is love spelled backwards, which means it's a thin line between love and hate. Love is God, hate is devil, which is the evil be by choice. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Um as far as how I see it in Love Hella Right, I think love is the intention that we have in everything. And every time, for example, a student walks into the classroom, that teacher is very impactful just by the intent of what he shares. Like you came here and I am here to share something with you, and I show my intent. And so it isn't about me, it is about you understanding something that I have to share, understanding it so well that it isn't about me just being right to your empty vessel that without it is wrong. You see? And I think that that's would be an example of love on that level, you know? And so love hella right is an order. It is intention, right? To what? To be willing to go through the work, because hell is not something that is given to us. We create all the hells that exist. It simply means the work that we go through to become right. And in this case, in this context, it wouldn't be right, but more righter, more righteous, right? To be in a more right state, right? So, in everything we do, we can see how love manifests, and how love manifests by that intention to understand is so crucial. You see? Even when you're attracted to someone, let's say we're attracted to a woman, it is things that we're seeing that we understand the beauty of. You see, we understand it though. And you say, no, it's just physical, it's just but the more that you think about it, as you should, the more you understand the reasoning behind it. You see, and that can even go with even a physical, intuitive, a very instinctual feeling. And that's why I think that people's identity, it suffers because of that. They don't really understand what love is. They're not shown what love is. You see? And so people, I think, in many respects, are adapting their identity. They adapt their identity so that they can get love. You know? All right. Well, if I'm like, I feel this way, if I'm like this, maybe I will be worthy of love. Right? If I behave like this, if I do these things, if just become open to anything, the chances of me getting love are increased. Just think about that for a minute. You know? But is it really love? You know what I mean? That's another question. Right? I hope that answers the question. Will give some insight on Andre. I'm not sure. Let me know. It was your first time here. If you have any questions about the class or anything like that, like anybody in the online thing, treat this like a classroom. Okay. So, unlike a real classroom, you are the ones that are deciding the intensity of your seat. You know, are you just there watching, or are you there sitting? You said love in a relationship has to do with growth and development. At point do you break free? I don't know. That's the second sentence a little bit uh, broken. I don't know. I don't bear witness that all relationships have to end. Um, Most do. Um, but all relationships are growth and development because nothing stays the same. Right? Everyone is learning. Everyone is growing. You see. But do they keep those original intentions? We're in love with the intentions, the realities. See. And sometimes people, for whatever reason, they may feel that the other person has lost those intentions, right? Andre, you said, I've noticed that I grow and develop in relationships. I think you answered it by saying you don't think it's necessary to end at some point. One or the other has reached their fullest equality. Hmm. If one or the other has reached okay. It's about the carefulness, though. It isn't always about like the measurements of things. It's always about the intention. What were the original intents that caused you to say, listen, I want to, when it comes to this person, this relation, I want to be careful of them. I want to, I need, I enjoy, I truly want to share and care for them. You know what I mean? And the feeling is mutual and consistently mutual. You see? If that is intent is in there, then the growth and development, you know, will continue to happen. Quartis, you said it seems that the culture is the measure of our vision, which is established by our thoughts and goals. How do vision and purpose relate? Are there biological benefits to having a purpose? That revelation of purpose. Um, it's a good question. Good question, Quartis. It's a different type of wording you're using, different particularities. different ideas thrown in there that are very interesting. The culture is a measure of our vision, which is established by our thoughts and goals. We do have a vision when we live our culture. Like we intend to relay certain things. And that becomes what the power is. We intend to show certain things. That's the power. We intend to do that. You know what I mean? And so this vision and purpose, they do relate because there is always an overarching theme to our reality, whether it is, uh, something that should be questioned or not, right? It's still important, right? Are there biological benefits to having a purpose? I absolutely think so. You know, this is the same as saying is, the planning and stuff. It cuts the variables of things, makes things more livable, more real. You said by biological meaning better cognitive functions, longevity, cardiovascular fitness, sleep and moods, things that affect the way that we live. Absolutely, because when it is easier to care for yourself, which is really love for yourself, that carefulness for yourself, and there is more benefit to it, then there is less of a burden that you are seeking to be fulfilled. You know what I mean? That love could be, it becomes more unconditional. I'm not saying that unconditional is the ideal. I think love is a better word for love is interdependency, not so much unconditional. Unconditional, that doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? I think that applies to our children. I think that applies, and also to the way we care for children in general, the unconditionalness. I don't think that applies in our romantic relationships of any kind. I don't think so. I think it's about interdependency, and I think that the more that you're able to love yourself, the less that you are in need to have someone fulfill things for you. You know, Mikhail, you said yes, sir. King, I did that in a few relationships. Uh, I didn't view my queen properly, so I got frustrated. Said I'm done with it when I should have been more patient. That happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. For many people. Andre, you said I've always struggled with the idea of purpose. Striving to live the life you want to live, your purpose automatically achieved. I would think so. I would also say that I think purpose sometimes gets a little drawn. If someone is in the quest to learn, uh, to be righteous, if they can couple that with an exploration of their talents and the things that they would love to do, then their purpose becomes a lot more simple. You know, That's why that's such a big part of this coursework here. You know? I got uh, we are building on some of the questions on love in from my justice curriculum. You know, studying it, learning it. You know, always thinking about how we deal with it and how we live it out. Right, as an overt thing. Sometimes everything is so quietly done or assumed. Life, you said, peace to God. Son questions in the cipher: how will hell be destroyed, and how will the black man live when hell is destroyed? I mean, that's abstract. You know, what is the hell? You know, what is the hell? Right? I don't think that we really understand what the hell really is. Malik, you said one, awareness of how life functions, and three, having clarity on such gives our culture a sum total of activities to live out with freedom and righteousness. That's peace. That's a peace build. Give me a moment. I want to build on that hell as an abstraction and stuff. When you take it straight like the lesson or the way Elijah Muhammad used to talk about it, it's not how is it destroyed? Like, what is it that's being destroyed? Okay, what do we have? Okay. How will the hell be destroyed? How will the black man live when hell is destroyed? I think one of the okay, you have an answer right when I stepped in. Hell can be destroyed internal, external, because the devil nature is to destroy and oppress. Well, certainly that's the answer. I mean, that's the answer. You know what I'm saying? You know, but it goes deeper into like these questions about how do we build our communities. You know what I mean? How do we build them? Like I talk about love like that because one of the revolutionary concepts that Che Guevara and others, Fidel had, and many others, I'm just mentioning them, um, was that you were supposed to have this love. Like there was supposed to be this genuine love for the reality that you were going to create. And I think that when our young realize that they're not just subject to trying to survive, but the greater that they build themselves up, they were able to be able to create the reality that they have so longed for. And so they ought to spend time, and now they see value in spending time in figuring out, well, what is this reality? What is it going to be about? Instead, like this generation, when we talk about the woke generation, which is really an abuse of everything, and it's really a corporatization of what are people really doing. It's a lot of miscategorization, over categorization in some aspects without the understanding. You see, categorization, like we were talking about before, is useful if it's bringing understanding, but it's not. You're not seeing the understanding, and so it's just a lot of categorizing for exclusion and a better inclusion. And that's what you get. But what happens if people really realize that they're categorizing things so that they could change the world? Because they're going to be the ones that can change it the right and exact way, not just react to the changes that happen to them. You see, it's a little different. It's a little different, right? Andre, you said, I remember one of the older gods saying, heaven is what you make and hell is what you go through. Yeah, yeah. That was big freedom, right? Remember the perfection. It's legend, legend. You said, I always describe heaven for me as being in the presence of the gods and earth and land founded in peace. Doesn't really get any better than that. No, it would not. Malik, you said, is hell a religion mindset, or is it a trials and tribulations that we see as hell? I always see hell not as trials and tribulations, right? But the result of the work that we choose. Okay. A lot of the trials and tribulations that we go through are the work that was not done by ourselves, ourselves, and others. Okay. And the truth is that we're subject to all of that. So it becomes a hell, right? right? So I do see that is that's why hell is so confusing. But when you're dealing with how you will build, the work that you create is the hell. You have to create the work. And if we get the young to create the work that they deem worthy, this world starts to change faster. Right now, everything is reactionary, and that's why it's largely useless. I God, you said I see that though, as hell being the trials and tribulations that manifested coming out right. The problem with that, again, like I said, the point I think about it for a minute. Um, it is a child, obviously trials and tribulations, right? But I think it's necessary to emphasize that we're not building anything to a right and exact state if we're only going through hells that we see as imposed on us. That's why I say the hell is work, and at its highest level, when one deals with love, that intention, it's work that they created. And that's what writing your history is. What is the work that's going to get what gets you to the place? It's the work that you devise for it, right? Malik, high explosives is literal and it's figurative, obviously. You know what I mean? High explosives being literal is, you know, we have the ability to experiment with all kind of destructive elements, you know what I mean, to create things on an abstract level, or what the high explosive is a metaphor. Those high explosives at the deepest concepts that people don't understand, we experiment with them, the exploration level, right? Yakub experimented with high explosives, the idea of going outside of equality, outside of the realm of truth, right? And like you said, the reason rain is never drawn above 6 miles like is like centrifugal force or simply gravitation. Right, right. I mean, pretty much most of the degree is just about gravitation. You know, it's pretty much what most of it is about. Like you said, peace. To add on to the topic of love, how I see it is also could be the highest elevation among the people. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I mentioned the revolutionary fervor that Che and Fidel had for like this concept of love, um, as necessary for the revolutionary. This is a direct Che Guevara quote. Malik, you said I'm striving to see causing the earth to quake using high explosives. Well, you see the earthquake, right? When they mine, when they go down below with explosives, fracking, right? How it destroys the earth. So, like, absolutely, absolutely. It causes destruction, it causes quake, right? Right, right. So, Malik, what is it that is confusing here? Right? What is it that's confusing here? Andre, you said, okay. Well, that's an interesting idea. Does love ever rise above six? No, I disagree with that. I think love is the reality of all things. I truly think that. It is the intention in all things created. There's a measure of love in all of it. You know what I mean? And with anything, you can see the result by the level of love in that measure. So it's a consistent measure. Everything is created with some level of love necessary in it. You know? I mean, we say it doesn't rise above six, but there are children exist. So I don't necessarily see that, that it would get just distill at six. Mikhail, you said peace to the righteous. Dear brother Sunnis, can martial arts give one a clear perspective on how to deal with love, hella right in our daily lives? Um, I'm a martial artist though, so obviously I see it. You know what I mean? I don't the love to explore yourself, how you move, and how those moves can enliven your health, but also protect you at the same time. Though, is one of the most dual forms of love that one could engage in. That's why the martial arts is so powerful. You know, um, I think absolutely, because every time you go out there, what is your intent? Is your intent to learn to protect, learn to augment yourself, learn to be be greater in service to others? These are all the things that you go in with the love of, the intent of when you train. You know what I mean? And so, what do? You go through you have decided mass amounts of work that may not be able to get done, daring endeavors of training, right, in order to reach that level of being more and more right toward that love. I mean, that this absolutely offers a perspective. Malik, you said the visual aspect of explosives underwater, I see messing with her emotions, causing her to act out. I'm just trying to see it figuratively or literally, as I do with demolition. Oh, when you see the distilling, yeah, I mean, I think that you're missing a key sentence. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to see it. If you're trying to see it metaphorically, the the jewel is in, in the concept of the swift and changeable. You know what I mean? The forms. You know what I mean? They're currents of air, right? Right. The currents of air, right? Real cold and warm, swift and changeable, right? So the nature of that gravitation, how it's caused, is also the emotions. You see? So you have to do things, right? You have to draw up that water, right? And as you draw up the water, though, it results in the emotions, right? So the metaphor is there, you know. Nice piece, McKen. Now, like I said, not to plug it in or something like that, but if you're interested in training in the martial arts, I don't know where you reside. If you reside in New York City, in the boroughs, or if you're off the boroughs, I do Zoom training as well, because this is an introductory course, and I certainly can't teach you uh, to begin. And when people finish my Zoom course and they really get through it, you know what I mean? They're actually able to go respectfully to any school and begin, you know, and not just be like 50 miles behind or totally out of shape as some other things. The hell is the work. You know what I mean? The hell is the work. You know what I mean? Right? Are you meaning that Darkim had the same question, or Darkim was given the same question to answer? Right? Right? What is the hell? That work, once you are doing that work, you are in the reality of not being where you want to be. You could see that as a hell, and it is often considered a hell because it is never endeavored. It is not, if it is not endeavored into, if it is not engaged, then it will be a hell of undone things. And you will not be at the level that you could be at. This is the worst type of hell. But all things are achieved by work of some sort. But I don't know if you meant that if Darkim had been pitched the same question, or if he had that question as well. Okay. The reason I say that is because in that love hell or right, I don't see hell as something that is outside of us. I think it's useless to see it that way. I think, what do we have control over? The mathematics and the alphabet are concepts that we have control, tools that we are using. So in this case, though, that hell is something that is just a fragment. You see? So I don't see the hell as like just oppression and all these things, because everything is really the effect of work that was not done. Everything is the effect. All the hell that is around us is the effect of work that has not been done by our predecessors, by our ancestors, by us, by oneself. So when someone says, then we take it through love, hell, or right, then we're not taking it through love through that hell. We're taking it through what? The work that we see, the intention to go through the work that we see to come out right. You see? So I've given a very unique understanding out of it, though, because no one says this. I'm the only one that says this. Okay. But it's a way to take an active to activate the concept. A lot of times in these builds, they don't mean much to me as concepts outside of myself. They all have to be something that I can do, or else it's not a tool that I could use. Okay. So for me, the love is that intention to be right. And that's why knowledge and understanding are one and the same. That hell is the work that you intend to go through, and it is a lot of work. It is intense. You want to get stronger, you've got to lift the weights, right? If you want to get stronger, you got to lift the weights. And we said, how could you love the hell? But that work, you love it. You love it because you're in it, and it will be completed. And your love doesn't begin at the end, and it doesn't be because it already was there from the beginning. So it has to be while you were in the hell too, while you were in that work. It doesn't go love, hell, or right, and it's vanished from the middle. It's always in there. So then this hell isn't just things that are imposed upon you. When we say love, hell, or right, and we're looking at hell as the reality that we're in as in general, right? Then now that is the more general build on it. And for me, I don't. It's not that I don't see it. It's just that I don't use it that way. I find that very useless and very unengaging. Right? Okay. All right. Let me finish the health thing. Andre, I will go back to the question you just asked. Yeah. But I hope that what I'm saying about love, hell, or right makes sense. You know? Um, Andre, you said going through hell to get right is nature. You must train to get better. Jay, you said peace. You don't see the hell when you love what you do. Um, it depends. It depends. I mean, everything is moments. You know what I'm saying? And in the degree, love, hell, or right is like a moment. And in these moments, you can see it as a hell. You may not see the love, but the love has to be there through it all. What I'm saying is that the greatest equation is us having the intention. And that's what I see as love is the intention for right. Going through the work that you have created, the history that you have written to fulfill, and coming out righter. You know, use it grammatically incorrect so you can see what I mean there. I'm saying it as like an active working principle. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Andre, you said peace is the absence of confusion. It is. I heard some of the older gods speak on building with more than one woman. Just curious to know how you see that. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. You know what I'm saying? The truth is that, I agree with that. You know, I definitely agree with that. Right. So it really would be like this right? More right. In essence, though, really more righteous, right? Or which is grammatically incorrect too. A greater righteousness achieved, right? The completion of the goal, the completion of the goal, right? The goal being what? The fulfilled, right? The born or the born history that was the born history that written in advance now is right. I'm just trying to just look at it. You know, I mean, yeah, the build degree and the 13th degree, they're not just correlated. I mean, they're pretty much the 13th degree is pretty much an addendum of the other. So I don't know. I would say just correlated. I would say that they're connected. You know, it's an elaboration. Well, addendum, not addendum. Addendum is like an add-on. You know what I'm saying? Or continuation of the concept. You know, in the concept of the build degree, it's very concrete. They're trying to be as concrete as possible, and it's us that is connecting the metaphor, right? And how it impacts. But the metaphor is brought out completely in its application to people when in the 13th degree. You know what I mean? How does the weather and the reality of the weather and the ignorance of its reality as being man-made, right, affect the way that we see what a mystery God is and this mental depth, right? So, the degree is an addendum. It's a continuation of sorts, in many respects. Does that make sense? Peace. And don't worry. Yeah, yeah. Zigzag zig. From what I know, it is. It's a term. I don't know if it's a word. You know, I don't know. Let me give it a look up. I've never looked up zigzag zig, and but zigzag zig is a term. You know, right? Certainly zigzag. Right? Right. To zigzag is a term of that pattern, right? But zigzag zig is really the innovation that the father came with on that. You know. But yeah, yeah. So zigzag would be a real word. You know. All right, we're at the last. I'm gonna end this class at 10 o'clock. Um, Let me know if there's anything that you would like me to share. Again, I was talking about martial arts and stuff. So if you're interested in training, I'll give you my rates. They're very good, whether Zoom from a distance or if you want to come and train with me personally. Uh, the beads, I have beads on both arms. Mala beads are basically used to count the prayers. So they really count. They're really counting mantras and stuff because they don't really have prayers like "I hope that I will be this or that." They're really, so that they call them prayer beads, but that's incorrect. But in Buddhism, they're not really, it'd be incorrect to say that. But other cultures use that to count prayers too. Um, I got this when I started training martial arts with the gods. You know what I mean? The gods used to always buy them, and then our Sigung told us that this was just a way of making more impact. You know what I mean? And you'll see me with the silver, the steel bangles and stuff too. Just weapons really become weapons for us. But they also adorn, making adorned weapons. LT station is a good point. By the father adding zig to the end makes it knowledge, wisdom, understanding, but also makes it endless. Endless cycle. So yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like I said, like I'm always gonna stream the class. So when I get back to law school in Mecca, I'll stream. So, and of course it helps. A lot of hip hop, my hip hop work, I'm gonna start putting on this channel as I go along. So if you're into that, subscribe to the channel though. It helps me, right? Because if I get over 1,000, I can monetize and build more. Um, and also allows you to make sure you get the stuff. But there's a lot of content I'm gonna be throwing up here. A lot of work I've done over the years, so I'll put some of it in one place, And I definitely see that out to again another example of the simple genius of Allah. You know, It's peace, Malik. Yeah, definitely. It's all with love, right? All with love, right? You know, I think about love all the time, all the time. Um, no, this YouTube channel. But I'm also gonna start putting writings up, especially when I start publishing the books I have waiting. I'm gonna start publishing regularly as I used to on my site premierhiphop.com, and this channel I was saying to subscribe to because I'm gonna be putting up not just the class, continuing with the classes here, but also some more hip hop content that I have. A lot of stuff. A lot of changes this year. Good stuff. So a lot more work uh, to be found, but all in one place. More in one place, I should say. Love is life, and life is living. Very special. Yeah. Yeah. Jay, you said you're in the 40th, in the 12th degree in the 140th. But why doesn't the devil teach that? That's I'm trying to remember. I think I had that. Why does the devil teach that? And that was wrong. And I remember Firstborn Prince telling me that was wrong in the degree. It was a overall mistake. And so I had changed my degree to be why doesn't the devil teach that? So I got my lessons from Knowledge Me. But because that tree goes back to Prince, there were certain things that Prince would teach me and show us, um, Knowledge Me included, like what might have been typos and things like that. So I don't know how that it became why does, you know, because the framework of the other degrees is that he's not teaching the truth. So, sometimes it's hard to find the grammatical consistency in Elijah Muhammad's vernacular. But the way the gods have it is, why doesn't the devil teach that? You know, because it doesn't is the right way. Also, too logically, if we can put some grammatical logic in this, and we're allowed to, right? Is because doesn't, the reason he doesn't do certain things is because the degree is about the ignorance of the way we are. So many of them. That one too, right? Right? Make slaves out of all that he can so he can rob and live in luxury. But if you go back to the prior degrees, you know what I'm saying? And we go, um, why does the devil teach and keep our people illiterate? Right? That's why it get, and that one doesn't say doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Right? But he does actively teach to keep us illiterate. Whereas in this one, why does the devil teach that? And we're looking at the previous degrees, right? Is it correct? I don't know, because sometimes the grammar is so off, it sometimes wouldn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? Right? Trying to go over them in my head. Like, I mean, the previous degree is sitting up at home waiting for a mystery God to bring you food. And no. Yeah, so it doesn't, because the context is there, it could be does or doesn't. But from what I learned, it always, it's supposed to be doesn't. And that was the consensus that I learned of. I mean, grammatically, it doesn't really. Is that there's no Elijah's grammar's already wrong in so many places, so it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? But from what Firstborn Prince told me, he said, "Why doesn't?" So I have why doesn't. You know, like visible. If you have why does, it's not necessarily wrong. Like it doesn't ruin the point of that. You know what I mean? But in a lot of these degrees prior, they're about not teaching about this, not teaching the truth, not revealing the truth of what happens with rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. You know what I'm saying? Right? Concealing, right? To conceal, right? So the context is context. But again, some people have does though. You know, I think I had it in the beginning, and it was Prince that told me it was doesn't. So I changed it. With that said, I'm gonna let you all go. Email me, build, create things, all right, and study love, right, among many other things, right. All right, now I'll build with you next week. Uh, and of course, I keep saying I expect to right. I expect to be at a law school in Mecca. Peace.